So, week 29, day 1, Monday the 4th of November. I've been waiting for the rain to decide to bugger off, but it's not going to. So yes, here we are, out in the world. So yes. So this should sort of work. If it doesn't, I apologise. And we're out in the woods. So it's about 12:30. So this will only be a short video because I've got things to do today. I'm going to get to go and see Amanda Palmer on stage tonight. But it means schlepping all the way over to York, which is about 2 or 3 hours travel. Years. This is kind of hard work. So this morning, while it was raining, I watched the 3rd episode of Watchmen, which seriously is turning into the superhero version of The Wire. I thoroughly recommend you go and watch it wherever you are able to on the internet, the place of finding everything. And I've received plenty of good recommendations for online libraries for Project Morlock, to the point where I'm almost like considering doing a kind of separate playlist and doing some Project Morlock videos, stuff that people that think, right, let's get a little insurance under our belts for when people do finally screw this all up. And I'm not saying it's going to happen in our generation. It might not happen till after I'm dead. And if so, this will provide a record that, some of us could see this coming. Although there is a natural inclination for humans to sort of, get into eschatology or the study of the end times, which, the idea that humanity will go on after you're dead is kind of unsettling to people. I'm quite happy for it to go on after I'm dead. I'm just pissed off that it's not better while I'm alive. But yeah, so if you're watching this in the future, hi, dead guy talking. It's like listening to a Hendrix album or something. So I've ordered that copy of The Ref. Should be with me within a few days. That'll be nice. It's already been posted. Just waiting for it so I can have a look at it. It might not even be useful to me. But the fact that there's an extra copy for the person that loots my house in the post-apocalyptic world that we will inherit. You're welcome. It's really raining. So I'm going to probably keep this quite short. So Watchmen's good. And it looks like the BBC are making a very good fist of His Dark Materials, which is an anti-theological type thing. Yes. We live in a world dominated by theology, it seems. Last night I watched a very good YouTube video by Stuart Lee about blasphemy. You just put in Stuart Lee and blasphemy into YouTube, you can watch it. It was a few years ago now, but it makes a very good point. It's like, if you want to believe in God, fine. But, don't get all pissed off when somebody else doesn't believe in God in the way that you believe in God. Because I refuse to believe a super intelligent being, A, needs your help to govern the unruly people that don't believe in it. And B, think about where the advice that you're getting comes from. In that, quite a lot of people would claim to be Christian in the Western world. It's a minority religion everywhere else, but quite a lot of them would claim to be Christians. Yet, they don't wholly embrace it. The word of God is only the word of God if people don't cherry pick. And in my experience, most Christians do cherry pick from the Bible. They don't eat fish on Fridays. They don't, eschew shellfish or pork. Because at no point did Jesus say he wasn't Jewish. Nowhere in the Bible. And you think they'd want to make that distinction. Apart from the one neat little loophole, which doesn't sound very godlike at all, at the end of towards the end of the crucifixion, his last words were to Peter, who was later to become St. Peter, the guardian of the pearly gates type thing, was, do as you will on earth, and I shall make it the same in heaven. That's a bloody big loophole. So that basically gives carte blanche to everybody that wants to be in charge, and it's kind of like an invented concept. It's like money. People believe in money, and money only exists while it suits the people that have lots of it to do so. That's why wealthy people do not have money it's stuffed in bank accounts. They have it invested in other capital. And when capital starts to earn money, and the person earning the money from the capital therefore does no labour apart from the maintenance of said capital, and then you get the disparity between rich and poor. You get people that work for a living and people that don't. And the people that don't are always making out that their work days are incredibly long, but that's because they're addicted to managing their giant train set of a capital system. Like the fact that most of the super wealthy in the world do not end up on the Forbes rich list. To which end, it's worth having a look at Explained by Vox, which is a Netflix series where they explain money, or try to. They don't really explain it, but it is an interesting watch nonetheless. The world is so balked, and so many people have kind of figured out how to exist inside the system and then completely play it. But it does start off with capital. Most of the rich people in the world, the really rich, have inherited most of their wealth. An awful lot of the world's billionaires are in the parliament in China. Most of the UK's cabinet is millionaires. Most of the Senate are very, very wealthy. And they call the shots, despite claiming to work for us. You would think if you had a whole bunch of really wealthy, good business managers, that the world would run like clockwork and would run for the benefit of us, but it doesn't. It runs for the benefit of the wealthy and the powerful. And until that stops, we're not going to get to do anything. So yes, if you are working on the plumbing for a spacecraft, build in like a little logic bomb that runs the toilets backwards. So when they get to Mars, if you don't switch it off, if they've left us to our fate, flood them and drown them in their own feces and urine, which is what they deserve. But they're seriously thinking about, just abandoning us to, this planet. I seriously think that that's why there's so much investment in getting off this rock. They will screw us over. They will not take us with them. They will not try to fix the things that they have fucked up. And basically, we have the technology to fix everything that's broken now. We can fix it. Just there's no impetus. Like when you interview I can't remember who it was, but it was, I think it was the guy that wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was like, keep them poor and working. And the problem is it's like a religion. People grow up in that religion, they believe in that religion. People grow up in capitalism, they believe in capitalism. Nobody's managed communism yet, because communism doesn't exist anywhere on earth. It might have existed in Cuba. That was still a pretty dictatorial form of communism. So yes, somewhat invalid. Yeah. And you'll find that you can't really even speak to people about things like making it better without them, issuing a hell of a lot of yeah buts. For we are, by deciding that knowing stuff is useful, and deciding that being able to do things is useful, we are heretics. The heresy of the people that do not believe that everything is okay. But there are more and more heretics. Just like there are less and less Christians in the world, there are more and more atheists. Because, you know, organised religion is a bunch of people in funny hats not wanting to do outdoor physical labour. And that's all it's ever been. Like God needs an interpreter. I'll go back to what the Chinese emperor said about Christianity when they tried to introduce it into imperial China. And the Chinese, quite rightfully, asked, well, why didn't God appear to someone that could actually write and write it down? Because that's not how it works. Religion largely functions on ignorance, especially organised religion. And as soon as somebody sets themselves up to be a religious leader, then you've got to walk away from that shit. You know, the appeal of anarchy, but anarchy does depend on people taking responsibility for themselves, and that's why it's a fundamentally flawed system at the moment. If we could teach people to be, you know, independent thinkers, anarchy will just happen. You know, like the true idea of there not being anybody in charge and people taking responsibility for themselves. You know, but you also have to provide a space for those people that aren't all that good at being in charge of themselves and help them out. So you'd have to have a serious system of anarchy that believed in uplift, as in, if someone can't look after themselves, then it is society's duty to help them out. But, you know, with an educational system that largely encourages people to think for themselves. You know, take this concept apart and put it back together. And there have always been children that have been born to take stuff apart and ask questions, even the difficult ones. And I'm pretty sure that everybody, you know, that watches this and watches more than one episode, it was one of those children. You know, whether you took apart things or ideas. So, and usually those people would have been shuffled off into the nearest church and been educated and controlled. But now we're kind of free range and less isolated. That's the whole point of why I believe in YouTube so much. It's a chance to meet useful people. But yeah, it is really raining. I don't really want to destroy the camera in order to record a video today specifically, so I'm going to cut this short at around 15 minutes. But yeah, thanks for watching. Well, let's do it properly. So, yes, this has been me blaring in the woods again today because I've got a lot to do, but I want to keep on making a video a day if I can. So thanks for watching, and do take care.
Morning. If I don't get it done, it won't get done. It's Sunday. Makes it day 7 of week 29, I think. I think not to week 30 yet. Got all the weeks wrong. Don't pay attention to weeks very often. Anyway, it's the first weekend after Halloween. Or Samhain, as we learned earlier in the week. Right. I don't know how long because it's going to rain. And by rain I mean chuck Thor's hammer out of the sky and make lightning bolts appear. It's already kind of raining. Yeah. I've been thinking about... There you go. I've been thinking about V's offline library. And... I wonder what the outcome is. You know what? I guess I know what I would add. I'm asking what other people would add. You know, the collective works of the likes of George Orwell and Heinlein, and there are many books you would just add on there. You know, I would say a copy of the Encyclopedia Britannica, and a copy of Wikipedia, and a couple of versions of Pear's Encyclopedia would all be great resources. We had a conversation this morning. I was talking to Digital Whiskey about the Pocket Reference, which is a book that details sort of general everyday formulas and common things you might do around the house. From a DIY perspective, there's a couple of other books in the series. There's actually the Desk Reference, Desk Ref, to go with the Pocket Reference. There's also the, I think it's the Home DIY Reference. There are numerous publishing companies who have brought out classical works into the same kind of idea. The Encyclopedia Britannica Corporation, whatever they are, the Encyclopedia Britannica Company, brought out the collective works of the greatest, in their mind, the greatest works of Western literature into an encyclopedia type set, so that all the books were leather bound and hard coated and etc, and would last a lifetime. Very small writing and very thin paper, but it works well because it's an encyclopedia set, isn't it? The Penguin Classics books, series of books, cheap, paperback books you can pick up in an op shop that cost nothing, let alone the digital works that you can now get. Come here. The digital works you can get to do exactly the same thing. I've got to find a treatise down there, I think. I can. Anyway, I wonder what everyone else's go-to reference books would be. I wonder what else people would add to that, to their list, of things that are important to them. You can go all the way back to Sean talking about how library books will be made illegal. Bradbury's work, Fahrenheit 451, of the firemen who go and destroy the knowledge of the society. We don't have to look at science fiction to realise that the world is an ever-changing place, and that we need another version of how we collect resource, or how we collect the knowledge of the universe. It just struck me as interesting. I've been thinking about it for a while now, and that was something I started looking at. I had to get my reading list down and I had to order my reading list books for my courses for this trimester. Back to university we go. More educations. The first one I'm reading is Stokes's Dracula, which was an interesting book of its time, and you look at it from the realm of speaking of how does it compare to, say, the feminist works of the 21st century in terms of comic books, which is an interesting idea. How does it compare and contrast from this book that was written by an Irish writer talking about the occult, back in the early days versus someone who's writing a comic book series now. How do they compare and contrast? It's interesting stuff. Fahrenheit 451 was on the reading list too. That was interesting. So was one of the Bronte sisters. It's Jane Eyre. Whoever wrote Jane, I think it's Charlotte Bronte wrote Jane Eyre. Might have been someone else. One of the other Bronte sisters. Can't remember. Numerous things to read anyway and look at over the course of the next 3 months. But it's that thing of, what are the classical works of the English literature? What are the classical works of other literatures that you don't necessarily know? What would you include? Right then, I better get off before I lose the dog to the storm. She doesn't like storms. Come here. Don't run away because there's a thunderstorm. Just come here. Have a good day, everyone. Go for a walk. Take your backpack with you. Think hard thoughts and then write them down. Share them with others. Most important part. Critically analyse your own thought patterns and then share them with others so that they may share in the knowledge. Have a good day, and I'll see you when there's not a rainstorm.